Hey friends, just checking in, and I am going to show you today how I stitched this bag using my Tajima Sai 8 needle embroidery machine. Come on, let's get stitching. Okay friends, so for this project, I'm going to be stitching the name across this part of the bag, okay? This bag, I did mess the stitching up once, and I used the stitch eraser to get rid of the stitches so that I could save the bag. And I'm just grabbing the stitch eraser so you can see what I'm talking about. And yes, I still keep it in the box so I could keep everything together. This is Peggy's stitch eraser. It works great if you mess up. You can see, hold on. You can see I actually did mess the inside up a little bit, but it's gonna save the front, and I know my niece will be okay with it because it's gonna look fabulous on the outside. Fingers crossed. So anyways, we're going to stitch this bag. I am going to be using my, is this the 8 by 12? The 8.25 by 12.25 Mighty hoops. And then I do have a couple of grips that I'm going to be using because this bag is really thick and it won't hold in place even with the Mighty hoops because it's a thick bag. These bags are not embroidery blanks. They are just something that I'm hacking my way to get the stitches on them, okay? And then I'm going to be using tearaway stabilizer. Okay, so let me finish moving this stuff out the way. I sat the bag to the side so that you can see what I'm doing with this stabilizer, which isn't a whole lot, but I'm just gonna lay the stabilizer down. And this is the back side that's gonna be facing away. I am actually gonna use some magnets to hold the stabilizer to it because I don't have one of those hoops that hold the stabilizer in place like I have for some of the smaller in my sleeve hoops. There's a ring that you can get for your Mighty hoops. I don't have one for this one. So anyways, what I am doing is I am going to use these little magnets just to hold this in place until I get it situated where I need it, okay? And so that's the part that's gonna go in. That's the back side. So now I am going to get my bag and bring it over here. Now, the bag is going to go in with this part, of course, towards the machine. So I'm going to take my hoop that I am holding the stabilizer in place with those little magnets. I'm going to take this part that protrudes out, and that's going to go into the bag because that's not going to, if I have it facing the machine, it's not going to go in. So the part that sticks out, the wider part on the Mighty hoop, it comes facing you. So I'm going to slide this down into the bag and pretty much just eyeball where I think I want it to be. And I know I wanted to stitch right across here. And in reality, I probably don't even need stabilizer, but I'm gonna use stabilizer because it makes me feel better. So I'm gonna hold that there. I'm gonna take the top part of the Mighty hoop and slide it over, bring these straps out, and truly just adjust it and work with it until it is straight so that you're not stitching crooked. And now I think that is pretty straight going across. Now I'm gonna use those grips to grip down at the bottom here. So the bag is sandwiched between the two Mighty hoops. Well, between the two pieces of the Mighty hoop, the top and the bottom magnet. Now I'm going to use this and clamp it right here so that it's sticking outwards so it doesn't bump the machine. Ask me how I know about that. And I'm going to use another one on this side. Same deal, sticking outward so it doesn't bump the machine. And so I'm going to pull this down and I'm going to feed it into the machine so that we can get ready to stitch. If you remember the video where I stitched on I was using the buy. I stitched onto some car mats. Same idea here with these here clamps so that the mighty hoop doesn't pop open while the machine is moving and stitching. And I think that is straight enough. Nope, it's not. I need to shift it a little bit. Let me take those off because I can see there's less on this side than on this side. So I want to try to straighten that out to make it a little more even. I don't know if I did that any justice. Okay. Okay, I think that will work. And now when I'm sure that it is exactly how I want it to be, I do go in and I take those magnets off the back because I don't need them. I'm not going to be moving the hoop around anymore as far as the two pieces that are together. Now I'm going to take it to the machine and we'll start stitching. Okay, so we're over here at the Tajima Sai, which is a 8 needle embroidery machine. These are just some threads from when I rethreaded those needles. I'm going to clip these so it's not hanging, but I'm going to pull up my design, and I turned the ring light off so that hopefully you'll be able to actually see my screen. And I'm just going to scroll through. I know that this design is towards the end. I want Titasia's name, and I'm going to pull it up. Yes, we're going to delete fine stitches. So it's already set for yellow, and I'm going to use the yellow thread, which is needle number 3. And now I'm going to go ahead and hoop this machine. I'm going to hoop this bag onto the machine. And let me make sure. I'm going to turn this light on now, so you're not going to, it might be a little bit of a glare, but I want to make sure that you're able to see what I'm doing. Okay. Okay. It's just clamping it in there. And I do move it to make sure that the hoop locks in place. And then this bag is bulky, but you want to make sure that it's going to clear the bottom and not get stuck on anything. So have the bag on here. I'm going to hit set on the screen here. It's already set for tubular 1, which is the biggest size that this machine will do. And then I'm going to hit set. It's set right now to trace off the middle. I don't want it to trace off the middle. I'm going to show you what I mean, like the middle of the design. I don't want it to trace off center. I want to trace it based off the top of the design. So I'm going to select the button so that the little circle is up at the top of that flower, which will tell the machine that, hey, we're basing our trace off of the crosshairs being lined up at where the top of the design should be at. And so because I've moved that, I am going to have to reposition where the bag is, because if you see these crosshairs here, they're where it would be centered, but I want this to be at the top because now the machine knows that we're tracing based off the top. I hope that makes sense to you. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit on the machine. I'm going to hit set. It gives me the next screen where I can actually adjust by moving the arrows. So I'm going to move this arrow so that it pulls the hoop down. And you can see now the crosshairs are closer to the top, and I really want this to be as close to the top as possible without it going on the zipper. So we're going to leave it there, and I am going to hit set on the screen over here. And now tracing is executed. We're going to trace to make sure that we're not going to have any problems with where it's positioned. And I do like to look at the crosshair just to be sure that it's not going to go out of bounds. And I think that it is going to be fine. Okay, yeah, I think this is going to be fine. And now I'm just gonna hit stitch or start so that it can stitch. And I'll turn the ring light back on because we're not gonna be looking at the screen. And what's going on here? Oh, the needle needs to be threaded. I thought I threaded that one. Sometimes it will be threaded and it will come out because it's not pulled back far enough, or there's not enough of a tail hanging for it to catch when it initially starts stitching. So that could be a problem too. So I'm just gonna make sure that that is threaded. I'm gonna clip a little of this off so that I could work with a little less thread. Slide that in and then just pull it through. Now there are different like little tools that you could get to help you thread the machines, and sometimes it's just quicker for me to do that. So now let me turn this ring light off to spare you the glare. On the screen here you'll see that it's actually given 18 stitches. So because there's not a single thread in that bag, I'm gonna back this up to make sure that I get every stitch that this machine is supposed, that this design is supposed to have. So I use the back arrows all the way until it's back to 0. So we're at the beginning again. Okay. Now I'm just gonna stop this because I want to clip that extra thread that's hanging right there. And now I'm going to let it go ahead and stitch. Now the way I set this up, as far as the design, it's going to stitch the name and then it's going to go back and put the star on each side of the name, because originally I was going to do 2 different colors, but I decided to do everything in the yellow color. And so this will take a little bit of time to stitch. It's 11,643 stitches, and I am only running this at 600. The machine will run at 8, but I'd never run it at 8. Most of the time it's at about 600. Sometimes I'll do 7, but I never run any of my machines at full speed. And I think I've talked about that before, but it's been a while. And this bag did come with another little bag. It comes with a small makeup bag. And I'll show that to you in just a minute. But, when this gets finished stitching, I'll show you the little bag. But I wasn't sure if I wanted to put an initial on it. Wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with that. So I think I'll just leave it blank. And in case you're wondering, this particular thread that I'm using is the New Growth Thread color 206. Is it 206? Yes, it's 206. And I am using Sim Thread polyester bobbins, the pre-wound ones. And I haven't had a problem with those bobbins with this machine. This machine seems to only stitch well when I use the Sim Thread or the NEB. Those 2 brands of bobbins, they're the plastic bobbins, and the machine does very well with them. Now, when I use the buy, I could use the metal bobbins that I wind myself. I could use the Nubro thread bobbins, the Sim thread bobbins. It just doesn't care. But this Tajima Sai, for me anyways, is she's a picky little girl. But I'm just going to go ahead and let this stitch. It doesn't seem like there'll be any issues with it. Yeah, I think it's going to be fine. So I'll just let it stitch. Okay, so I paused the video in the machine right here because I realized I messed up with this here star. It is not as thick as I needed it to be. Yeah, it looks terrible. So what I think I needed to do was change the settings so that the jumps aren't as short. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Normally my machine jumps are set at 3, but with longer satin stitches like this, I usually need them to be at about 6. So this is what I'm going to do just to see. Okay. Okay, it already stopped by color, and so I'm going to hit stop again just to clear that screen. So I'm going to go into the settings. I'm going to hit the thread spool right here. Okay, yeah, the jumps are set at 3, so I'm going to increase that to, I'm going to increase it to 7 because I don't have any more areas where I'm going to need little jumps to be cut anyways. It's just going to be the 2 stars and we'll be done with this. But I'll have it at 7 for the jump. I'm going to go back. Now I'm also going to back the stitches up a little bit. I'm going to go back by about 100. No, let's go to 200 and see how that works. And you'll see that it does actually stitch a little bit differently when I had a brain freeze, sorry. When it's set at that higher jump, it just jumps. But now this is not something that you would want to have a satin stitch that big without something to secure it down. So it is going to have a bean stitch to go down to keep them in place. And you'll see that in just a moment here. See, it just did the bean stitch to hold that in place, because without that bean stitch, those jumps would snag really easily. And so now the next star is going to stitch exactly the way it needs to, because I've already adjusted that jump. And I guess the star could have been a fill stitch, but I wanted it to be a satin stitch. The letters are fonts that I got from Designs by Juju, but the stars on each side they're shapes that are in Brilliance Stitch Artist 3 that you can digitize. And so instead of making them a fill stitch, I decided to make them the column or satin stitches. Okay, so now that bag is stitched up, and I am going to take it off of the machine. I'm going to go ahead and take these little grips off. Not too bad. Now, I'll tell you what, with the star, that one, the bean stitch going across this way doesn't no justice. That bean stitch going across, it's not going to help. The bean stitch going down, it will help. But overall, I like the way it looks. You tell me what you think. I'm going to just unhoop it, clean up the stabilizer from the back, and this bag is ready. Okay, so we are back at the table, and I am just cleaning up the stabilizer that is on the inside. Unfortunately, there is still some damaged areas from where I took the stitches out of the error that I made, but overall the bag still looks good on the outside. And I know my niece will still like it, because sometimes Auntie Shawn makes mistakes when she stitches. Now, I would never give this to a customer who was paying for this, but my family members, they understand that everything's not perfect. I just try to send paying customers, well, I do send my paying customers items that are as perfect as I can get them, because that's where my OCD kicks in. But anyways, this is how the bag looks. I do like it. Let's see if I can zoom out a little bit. Got her name going across the top here. And this bag has a shoe container, a shoe compartment on the side. Pretty nice. Has a zipper here on the outside, and I like on the other side of the bag, and this is why I didn't stitch this side of the bag, because there's the little sleeve here where you can stick the part that sticks up out of your luggage and set the bag on top of the luggage. At least that's what I think this is for. So I was telling you all that this bag does come with a small makeup or toiletry bag. I'm gonna leave it blank. I'm not gonna try to stitch that. I think I've done enough damage trying to stitch the bigger one. So I am gonna leave this one blank, and I will make sure that I put the strap in here that goes with it. Actually, I'm gonna hook the strap to the sides so that it is obviously here. But that is it. If you have any questions, let me know. I will try to put as many links in the description, but if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments and I will try to respond. Just keep in mind that sometimes I don't see your comments until like months later. Then it's like, well, YouTube, where were your comments at? But anyways, hope you enjoyed. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.